Welcome to the Soccer Geeks podcast, hosted by Jason Barbato.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Soccer Geeks podcast. I'm your host, Jason Barbato, and we have a very exciting conversation coming up today for you guys. Marissa, why don't you go ahead and introduce us and let us know who we're going to be speaking to today.
Yeah, Jason, welcome back to the virtual studio. We have today a very special guest. Her name is Natasha Anasi Erlingsson, and we'll get into the new change. You might know her as Natasha Anasi, who has played over here in the States and now plays for Iceland. And yeah, we're going to really get into like her journey as a soccer player, now playing professionally for the national team for Iceland, and how that came about. So I'm super excited to hear and learn more from her directly.
Well, let's bring her on the show. Natasha, let's go.
Hello.
Hey, Natasha, welcome. How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Doing fantastic. Doing fantastic. Thanks so much for joining us today. We're really excited to have a conversation with you today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
And I will be back towards the end to kind of wrap up the conversation, give you guys some key points, and Jason, take it away.
I will do my best, Marissa. Thanks so much for that intro. Natasha, thanks for joining us. Like I said, we've got some really wonderful themes in our conversation that I can't wait to share with our audience today. But first, I'd love to have just an opportunity a little bit. If you could just kind of share a little bit of your family background, kind of where you were born stateside, growing up in the youth soccer scene, and what was it like for you growing up and playing and then eventually making it to play college soccer, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. I am from Arlington, Texas. I am born to two Kenyan parents who actually moved to the United States to go to university and met there. So
now they didn't know each other beforehand?
No, they didn't know each other.
And they were both from Kenya? Oh, man. Providence.
So,
yeah, it's great.
Amazing story. So they connect, have me.
Yeah.
And I started playing soccer when I was, I think, 5. Oh yeah, I was in kindergarten, 5 years old, because I was quite a big kid. I was just naturally just very tall and very strong at a very young age. So my kindergarten teacher actually was like, "All right, I think we can use this to our advantage."
Heck yeah!
Straight to my mom and was like, "Does your daughter want to play on our soccer team? Because we're looking for a person." And she was like, "Yeah, of course. Like, I love soccer. We're gonna sign her up." So they signed me up. And it was just a dream come true after that. I just fell in love with the game. Ended up playing for the Dallas Texans. Yep. Which was, a big club. And we were quite a good team in my age group. I was in the 91, 92 age group. Okay. And we played in state cups. The U.S. youth soccer system was like the biggest at that time. So state cup, regionals, and nationals. We won nationals 2 times, I believe.
Wow. Okay.
And that's a little bit of like my states. I then, of course, went to Duke after that. Recruited from the Dallas Texans, went to Duke.
Now, did that size difference? Did that keep up with you as everybody got older, or did you kind of eventually cap out?
I think in 5th grade, I was 5'6", and I stayed 5'6" for the rest of my life after 5th grade.
5'6" in 5th grade? I've got a 5th grader, and I'm hoping she's pushing 5'1". Like, holy cow, good for you.
I kind of grew, and then I just was like imbalanced out after
it just
that.
You just kind of hit that. Now, for you, did you ever play up a few years, or did you always kind of play birth year when you were?
I did play up one age group, and when I was
for how long?
I think around that was just a couple years actually, because before that I had trained quite often with boys. Mm-hmm. I had a coach who did kind of like individual skills training, and he just loved me. I was really lucky. He was awesome. He's actually I think he's the director of coaching at Solar Soccer Club now, which is kind of a powerhouse, I think, now in Texas.
Yes.
And he was just great for me. He did everything, and he was always like, "Come train with my boys." He even tried to recruit me to play on his boys team, but my parents were like, "I don't know if you're ready for that. I don't know if you're ready for that."
Sure.
So I did that. Training with boys was one of the biggest things I did, and then I played up an age group because I am born in 91, so I was like older of the 91, 92 age group.
Mm-hmm.
So they took me up to the 90, 91 age group to see if I could play with them, and I played with them in a couple tournaments. And if they needed players, I was always the one who went up and played with them, but that wasn't so often.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you have a pretty illustrious youth amateur playing career. You play at Duke. Tell me a little bit about. Can you share with us, like, what was the recruitment process? How many college campuses did you visit? Was it always going to be Duke? Kind of something along those lines. Like, kind of what was that process like for you as you were kind of deciding where you're going to play?
I was really lucky. It wasn't the most difficult process. Oh, here's my little lady that I was talking about. Do you want to come say
Hey,
hi?
little lady. Yeah.
But I was really quite lucky with my recruiting process because I was playing well and I was one of the top players in the country at the time. So I remember there was a quote from one of my coaches, and he was just like, basically, like, talking to my mom on the phone, and he was like, just tell me what school she wants to go to and we will talk to those. That's probably easier to narrow down than to like look at all the options that were there. So basically I was contacted by Duke, and I had also been talking to Santa Clara and Stanford. So like I had my Duke visit, and then my plan was to go to California and visit I think 3 schools. I think it was Cal Berkeley, Santa Clara, and Stanford. Those were like the ones that I was looking at on the California side. But I went to Duke, I met with Robbie, and
you closed the deal.
I closed the deal straight away. It was my first visit. Closed the deal straight away.
now, as a native Californian, I'm going to ask you: did you ever make it out to California ever to look at any of the schools or anything like that?
I didn't, and in a weird way, I kind of look back and I regret not taking the visit. I do think I would have ended up going to Duke. I do think that, but I should have visited, because just now I had spent time. I played in San Diego, so I had taken the tournament there, Surf Cup.
Yep.
And
10 minutes from my house, by the way.
10 minutes from your house, and then of course taking some youth national team trips to like the Carson area where we were with the Icelandic national team recently in the She Believes Cup. So like I was in love with LA, but I found it. I don't know. There was just something about Duke's campus and just the atmosphere there and everything that just went the way that I wanted to, and it ended up being the place for me.
It worked out pretty good. Yeah, it worked out pretty good for you, right? Hey, listen, as a lifelong Californian, maybe it's the West Coast bias and things like that. I happen to think that had we gotten your foot in the sand on the West Coast, I think you'd probably still be here today. But the good thing is you are where you were supposed to be at the right time, playing at Duke. Now, going in, being a highly recruited youth player coming into the collegiate scene, can you kind of lay the landscape of what it was when you kind of came on the college scene, so to speak? We've had other college players that we've talked to that it was very difficult as a freshman to kind of come in and break through, with seniors being there, other players being 4, sometimes 5 years more physically developed than you were and things like that. So can you kind of give us a little understanding of what it was like to kind of come into the program like Duke as a youth player?
Definitely. I would say my freshman year was very up and down. I came in, of course, playing center back my entire career, and I more often than not was stepping in as a defensive midfielder or right back, which right back was one of the positions I remember telling my youth coach, I was like, please, when I go to college, I really don't want to play there.
Sure.
But
any specific reason why not right back? Because all our right backs out there would love to know.
I really like being in the center of the field. There's just something, I think I'm just meant to be in the middle of the field. A little insulated. Yeah, okay. Exactly.
Yeah. Which the East Coast makes a lot of sense, because you got Europe on one side and you just basically have the rest of the whole Western United States. So I understand. That's why Duke was really the good choice. That's right.
Exactly.
It was the central midfield of all college campus. That's great. I love it.
I played a decent amount, I would say, my freshman year, but like I said, I think it was just very up and down. It took me some time to just adjust to I think just expectations, the speed of play. I will never forget playing Carolina in that first year. They were just like a powerhouse. It was a humbling experience playing against them. And just also juggling your workload. Of course, I was always a very good student. School was always very easy for me, but when you're in such a rigorous workload or rigorous curriculum like Duke, it is hard. You really have to balance your time well.
Right.
So you have your time of studying, you have soccer, and then you also have your social life, because you want to keep your life balanced.
Oh, did you have one of those?
Barely.
I was gonna say you're one of the lucky ones if that's the case. Yeah. And what degree did you pursue while you were at Duke?
I actually came in and said that I was going to be pre-med, so I was a biology major. That changed that. Ambitious. Like I said, humbling.
Yeah, lots of humbling. Yeah.
And I graduated with I majored in political science, and I had a minor in sociology.
Okay. Now, playing at Duke, you stayed. Did you stay for 4 years or 5 years?
I was 4 years.
You were 4 years? Okay.
Yeah.
And can you connect the dots for us and kind of just give us a little bit of your personal history there? What were the opportunities to play domestically post-college? Mm-hmm. And what were the opportunities to play internationally post-college?
Yeah. Basically, my whole plan was to play in the States, because the league the NWSL had kind of been like up and down, and it not really solidified itself. So come 2013, 2014, then I entered the draft, and I was drafted number 13 to the Boston Breakers. I had a conversation with them before, because of course it wasn't as organized as it is now to graduate early. So I was going to be graduating in May, and I talked to them and told them that I wanted to finish my degree. And they had accepted that initially. Then I got drafted, and I think maybe it wasn't completely agreed upon with all of the people I had talked to that I would come in at that time, because they wanted me to be there preseason. So I kind of had to make a decision at that point if I was going to drop out of my classes and leave this last semester and take it another time, or if I was going to go ahead and graduate. And I chose to graduate on time and then look to go play abroad after that.
Okay, so you Bo Jackson the draft, which that's totally fine. I'll respect you for that. Okay. Now it had nothing. No, I'm not. I could ask a question, but I'm not going to cause any problems there. So the domestic kind of options there, and to be fair, you kind of understand. Hey, being in preseason was important, and then if you came in May, it's still the runway to get you kind of integrated. So that whole first season was going to be kind of a loss, but they already lost the draft pick on you. I don't understand why they would have just been like, well, like I might as well figure it out. The runway is just longer than we thought, but I'm not running that front office. I can't speak to that. So you start looking, obviously to offers international. What type of opportunities were there in 2013? For females to go, to Europe or to South America. It's not like it is today in 2022, where it's like women's soccer is like the hot commodity. Like that's like the up and coming, that's the emerging sports market in the rest of the world. It's not like it was 10 years ago, 9 years ago. So can you kind of paint what that landscape looked like international, and then kind of what opportunities presented themselves for us?
Of course, it was like an interesting journey, because at that point, then I have to start looking for an agent. And I just had absolutely no idea. I had to basically look at friends that I knew who were playing abroad and talk to them about their process of how they got to where they were going. Because I had known one teammate who was playing at Bayern Munich at the time, which is actually funny, because she says that Bayern Munich today is just completely not what it was then. Like it was just, they had not the same training facilities. Everything's just so different than it was, than it is now. So I talked to a friend, and I was connected with an agent, and basically from there, I just gave him my complete trust, and was just kind of like, see what you can find for me, and then we're just gonna go from there. And he came with a few offers, and like you say, like women's soccer was not as it is today. So like, just salary wise, you were taking a risk in some areas if you were gonna, like at that time, I think playing in the first division, which is like the second league in Sweden, not the top league, you were maybe gonna make like $700 at the time and play there, and that's just the money was not there at the time.
Yeah.
I was lucky. I ended up getting an offer from an Icelandic team, which is IBV Investment Air, which is a little island off the coast of Iceland, which you can,
Yes.
an island off the coast of an island.
Right.
And
Sure.
that's where I ended up going. But even then, I was just kind of like, am I really going to Iceland? Is that my plan of action, like now moving forward? Because, of course, you're looking at other people, you're seeing them maybe, like I knew a girl who was at Ajax, you're seeing these bigger clubs. But I just kind of took a leap of faith. And I felt like maybe if I just took this offer, it would maybe open some doors to other things after that.
Yeah, and sometimes you can only take the opportunities that are presented in front of you. I've talked about with friends before. You can't worry about opportunities you don't have. Mm-hmm. Like the consternation that comes of what do I do? Well, unless you really have some options, there's not much you can do, right?
Exactly.
So thinking about the options and then weighing the options kind of in front of you are really good. And for our listeners out there too, later we'll give you Natasha's Instagram handle, and you can look through it and see that she lives in one of the most gorgeous places on earth, because I can't imagine. I basically imagine you just walking to practice and just blindly looking another direction and just clicking a photo and posting it, and it's still being like magical and beautiful. Like what an amazing country to kind of quote unquote end up in.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is just so wonderful. So you make the decision to go to Iceland, right? To play internationally. There's kind of the whole process that you have to become, a foreign player playing in there and stuff like that. Some work permit and visa, things that you process that you have to go through. But can you talk to kind of just like walking into Duke, different speed of play, in a sense, a different culture, or different community, but kind of same culture. You're stepping into a completely different culture going into Iceland. So can you talk about some of the similarities and differences that you notice? You're dealing now with a language barrier, and just some cultural barriers as well. Can you kind of talk about what that was like? At this point, you're 22, 23-year-old gal going to Europe, kind of walking into that situation. I mean, what did that look like?
Yeah, I mean, I think my first day arriving in Iceland just kind of encapsulates how like it is in this culture. And like they have a phrase that's called "Þetta and "Þetta means just like everything will like work out. Basically, they just believe like you never have to stress. Yeah, everything's gonna work out. So I land I think the night before our game against Breivik, which is actually the team that I play for now.
Okay.
So I land and my coach picks me up at the airport. We end up driving part of the way. We spend the night at the hotel, and he looks at me, and we're doing like I meet the team, I meet the girls. We're doing the pregame talk, and he looks at me and he's like, "You're gonna play today." Like, okay. And
how long was the flight, by the way? How long was the flight?
So I flew, I think, Dallas to Boston to Iceland. So I am exhausted, to say the least, at this point. And I think both of those flights, I think it's 4 hours and then 4 hours again. So I'm like, okay, great, I'm gonna play. And he's like, also, like, because it's like this kind of game, I really need you, but I also can't put you in the defense because I don't want to shake things up. You're gonna play attacking mid. And I was like, okay, great.
Okay. Not right. Hey, but you're not playing right back. So at this point, you're playing with house money.
Played. So I play. I score a goal in that game. Won't forget that. But that, like I said, I think that whole story just kind of like describes to you about how it can be in Iceland sometimes. That's just like, okay, we're gonna go with the flow and make it happen. But to talk more soccer wise, I think the players here are really technical. They're not the most athletic, but they're very technically gifted. So I think that's one of the like biggest differences. I would say you don't have like, especially me growing up in Texas, where like I think most of the soccer was played that was like very athletic. Like you had to be athletic, you had to be fast. Like those were like the key features.
That's American. That's Americanized, right?
That's very American. If you have those, that's great. If you're also adding technical, amazing. But I think being technically gifted is one of the biggest things here, and everything's very like the coaches are very tactically minded, so they really think through what their game plan is to be, and they really want you to stick to that. So I would say not that wasn't a difference, but like I was lucky to play on some teams where I had a little bit of freedom to like do whatever I like. If I'm a center back who brings the ball up, no problem. We just like create from that.
Right.
But that actually ended up helping me a lot being here, because I think most of the teams that I play start their attack from the back. So I think, yeah, I would say just like I was really surprised that like how most of the players were so technically gifted.
Mm-hmm. Any challenges there from language, anything like
Yes,
that? I mean,
for sure. I think Icelandic is one of the hardest languages. I think one of the top ones, the hardest to learn.
Yeah.
And so basically,
coming from America, for sure, from an English-based language, for sure.
Exactly, from an English background. So that like basically you're in there, and I think it's becoming better now because there have been so many foreigners to come play in the league now that most of the coaches do just do their pregame talks in English, but at the time, like everything was in Icelandic, and then they would just look to you and be like,
okay. Yeah.
You just keep doing what you're doing. And you're like, I feel like I just missed a whole lot there, but I got like 2 sentences. So okay, great. I'll just keep doing what I'm doing then.
Right. Baptism by fire, though. That's the best way to learn, right? It's just full immersion, right? So
full immersion.
You got full on baptized in Icelandic culture, language, everything, the whole 9 yards. Did you feel as a player coming in, we see this on the men's side a lot. In a different way. So I'll preface my question with that we see some bias on the men's side in this, but did you see any type of like American bias coming in as an athlete in the women's game playing in Europe? Or did you feel there's a different outlook on American female athletes coming to Europe than say some of the men, like some of the barriers that some of the men have had?
For sure. I think especially in the league in Iceland, like they have very high expectations of their American players, because I think there has been great success for American players who come to the league. So basically, if you're coming in as an American on the team, because there's only 3 spots on the team for North American players, if you're coming on the team, they're expecting you to be a baller, basically.
So if you're coming into the team, they better expect you to have flown for 8 hours and then play that night, center, attacking mid out of position, and score a goal. Okay, so I got it. Yeah.
Exactly that. No, I'm kidding.
Well, you fit the bill. Isn't that good? Yeah, look at that. Funny how things work out. So I was going to say that too. Actually, I'll just go a different direction. So tell us a little bit about what your playing career has been like in Iceland. I mean, you arrived. I won't even try to pronounce the team that you said you initially came for, because there's a lot of consonants and some circles I don't understand. But then the team you're playing for currently. So can you kind of tell us about the transition from some of the clubs that you played for to where you ended up now?
So the first club I came to was IBVF, which is basically just IBV if you're going to translate it to English. Sure. And that team was it was like very up and down for us, but we managed to be typically middle of the table. And that was just a really good experience there on the island. If we talk about beautiful places, I say that that's the most beautiful place in Iceland is to be in Vestmannaeyjar. And we had a good group of solid youth players, and then you added in experienced foreigners with that, so it ended up being a good mix. And I think the first season I was there, we managed to get middle of the table. The next season there, it was a little bit up. It was like, again, up and down. We managed to beat like the number 1 team, but then we would go play against like the number 8 team and then drop a game to them. And then in 2016, it kind of like fit together. So we ended up making the cup final and played against my current team now, which is Breivik. And we lost, I think it was what was the score? 4-2 or something like that. But an amazing experience for like a smaller club, because I would say generally how it's been in the league here is that there's 2 very dominant clubs, Valor and Breivik, that usually win the league. So it's been generally different and then the rest is like a fight for 3 to 10.
Sure.
So yeah, and I switched from because then in 2017 I was pregnant with my daughter, and so I took a year off, and I switched to the team that's in my town now. That's called Keflavik, and they were actually in the league under, and I decided to take the jump with them, hop in with them, and we ended up getting promoted after that.
Okay.
Promoted, played a season in the top league, got relegated back down. Took another season with them, got promoted, and we ended up staying in the top league. And that's when I actually decided that I was going to make a switch and go to one of the teams that was top 2 at the time, and that's Breidablik, where I've ended up now. And they also have the opportunity to be league path in Champions League, because the top league, of course, goes the champions route in Champions League, and then they recently were able to add second place, who goes a league path.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering if you might just kind of let us know, so we kind of understand, kind of lay of the landscape there in Iceland. How many women's divisions are there? How many teams per division? It sounds like, there's promotion relegation, because you experienced a lot of the relegation, you experienced the promotion too.
Exactly.
So how is that kind of broken down? Is it 10 team divisions, or what does that look like?
Yeah, I think the top league and the first division are both, I think, 10 teams, I believe. And they have also a second division, which is basically the third league. And I think, I might be butchering this, but I think there might be now 12 teams in that division there.
Okay.
Because they were thinking about it to a different setup, having like 2 sides and then having a playoff at the end for that division. So exploring like a different setup there. But with like in the top two leagues there, like the top league and the first league, it is promotion relegation. 2 teams get relegated, 2 teams get promoted.
Oh, out of 10 teams.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, that's pretty brave.
Exactly.
You hinted on something that happened, to you and your family, in 2018, right? When your daughter was born. You said 2018, correct?
Yeah, she was born 2017.
2018
is when I came back. Yeah, 2017.
Okay, gotcha. So 2017.
Yeah.
So one of the things I was hoping that would be really wonderful you to share and just kind of talk about your personal experience is just some thoughts there on motherhood as a professional player. We see a lot of high profile. You see Alex Morgan and the profile that they have. You've got gosh, why do I blank on their names right now? They were both the gals were at Orlando, and they adopted a daughter, Allie, and God help me.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. I'm also, now that
we're both blanking. We're both blanking at the same time. Okay, cool. It's not just me, but I think it's spreading. So be careful.
Yes.
But so we see that motherhood looks a little bit different for players, and there's some, there's some variety there. But can you share a little bit about what that meant for you as a professional player? Obviously, I'm not saying obviously. From my perspective, it would seem that there would be some fear there that your playing days are over, and that motherhood, or getting pregnant, doing that to your body, all those things, it could be a real career killer or a derailer. So how did that process look like for you? How did you kind of walk through that? Because you're still playing today. And so I'm just really curious, like kind of what it meant to you and the thought process you had there.
Definitely. So like you touched on, it's like, for me at that time, because of course you see some athlete, like there wasn't as many high profile that I can think of at the time that I could look on to see, who had been traveling as being mothers and competing at the highest level. So, basically when I got pregnant, I was like, am I going to be the same player that was basically the question that was just in my mind. Am I going to be the same player that I was before? So I'm pregnant. I have Harper, my little girl, and then I'm like chartering the waters of like, how do I train post pregnancy, which is like, it is difficult because of course you have to just wait to see how your body handles pregnancy. Everybody's body handles it very differently, so you just never know. I was lucky, so I managed to train actually. I started training 9 weeks after she was born, and that's because which is wild.
Yeah,
and looking back now, I'm like thinking of the next baby. I'm like, I think I'm gonna wait a little bit longer.
Yeah.
But I had just missed playing soccer so much. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go take it easy, take it slow, and start to train. So I think a part of that also is that the team that I was gonna play for was in a lower division, so I knew that like I would be able to play at that level with no like stress of like. Are we going to get relegated? Are we going to be like, there's no stress of how the team's doing. So I decided to join on with them and take that battle. And it ended up being an amazing season for me. I ended up being player of the year that year.
Hey, now. All right. And mom of the year. Player of the year, mom of the year. Yeah. Now we're talking.
Scored 14 goals, which was wild. I was playing in the midfield with them.
Who
I
knew?
think that was
Who knew you had to go to Iceland to realize that you were always meant to be a midfielder?
I had that in me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was able to get in shape at a pace I think that was comfortable to me. So
Yeah.
I think there was no expectation. No one needed me. I didn't have to be back anywhere. So I was able to just go and just see what happened. And lucky for me, it ended up going really well. And that's when I realized at that point that like, okay, you can do this, Tosh. Like
Yeah.
you can
Yeah.
be a mom and a soccer player and manage to play at the highest level. So
yeah. But sometimes but it sounds like it took a little bit to get you there emotionally, mentally,
oh
psychologically.
my God. I
Yeah.
can only tell you the number of times that my husband was holding me in his arms where I was just crying. And I was just
Yeah.
like, I don't think I can do this. Like
Yeah.
your body's just aching everywhere. But I just loved playing soccer too much for me to be ready to be done. I just knew that there's just something in me that was like, no, you're not done yet.
Yeah. That's awesome. And what's good is that it was a process. No, you don't just set the mindset on day one and everything changes, but you had to kind of go through it and kind of walk through that process to kind of find who you really were on the other side of that. As a mom, kind of embracing that identity now, having a family, all those things.
Of course.
And I just want to add, Marissa added production notes on this, that it was Ali Krieger and Ashlyn Harris. Those are the names we couldn't remember. We both would have lost Jeopardy. It could have been Jeopardy, Wheel of Fortune. We would have absolutely lost the fortune there, Natasha.
I saw their faces in front of me, and I was just like, what are they? What are their names?
Yep. Totally. We lost. We would have, if there was money on the line, we would have absolutely had to pay up. So, well, we move on. Can you talk a little bit about the process? Because now you've, by this point, you've been playing 2018 now when you come back from, pregnancy and things like that. Now you've been playing in the country for about 5 years.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about establishing citizenship in a country outside the United States?
Yeah. That was actually a crazy process because it is a bit antiquated here how they do the paperwork process. It takes a long time. Everything is still on paper, and you have to meet this person and that person and that person to get it all done. But there is like a few routes that you can go when you're getting your citizenship. There is just like the regular process, which takes a lot of time. But there's also basically where it goes through, called Alþingi, which I think is just Congress. Basically, they have like a special committee that like awards citizenship to people who apply based on special circumstances. I managed to get my citizenship through that process just because of my family connections, and they saw that I had a very strong tie to Iceland because I have a child, I had a husband, my stepson as well. And that I've been living in the country for 5 years at that point. Right. So it was, I think, an easy check mark to give that person citizenship.
I'm paying taxes. I'm eating the food. I'm learning the language.
Bought a house. I've been doing all
I would like to be here.
I think I'll be here for some time is basically what I was saying.
Sure.
So I managed to get my citizenship through that process, and and then I shortly after that got a call from the national team coach asking if I would basically want to be with them, and they were going to a training camp, I think, in Spain that time. So he was like, "I'm gonna pick you. Like, are you gonna come play for us?" Basically.
Yeah. Okay. So and they didn't work at the embassy either, right? They weren't the ones stamping one paperwork for the national team and for citizenship, right? The two different hats. Is that what?
Two different places.
Two different people. Okay, cool. Yeah, not interrelated. Although
interrelated.
I'm just saying.
Not at all.
People might have made phone calls. Small country, everybody's connected. So,
exactly.
So, gosh, did you have an idea? Hi, sweetheart. Hi, Harper. How you doing?
Say hi.
Just some crazy guy in the United States. How you doing, sweetheart? So did you have an idea that you were going to be getting that phone call from, or that they had any interest in you from, anything like that?
Like, I knew that there could be the chance of it happening, but I had not had any formal conversations with anybody at that point of like, okay, like, do you want this, like, or whatever. Sure. But I think everybody just kind of felt it on me that it was something that I wanted to do. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it was definitely like not super formal. It wasn't like he called me and he's like, "Hello, Natasha. Like, would you like to be a part of the Icelandic national
Sure.
team?" No, I think it kind of just happened.
Yeah.
So
Um,
I know it's like not as exciting, but it just like
yeah,
it
that was
came
a huge
together in
letdown.
its own
Yeah, no,
way.
I just wow. I mean, how did that, so how long did you take to kind of process that or think about that? Was it like a conversation with your husband and he's just like, well, I'm Icelandic. Like, don't you want to
Yeah,
play for
yeah.
the national team? Like, is he a big football? Is he a big soccer fan? I mean, how does that,
He's
you know?
a huge soccer fan, probably like my biggest supporter out there. He's at every
Yeah,
game. He's
good. He should
screaming.
be.
Uh,
Absolutely.
just amazing. I couldn't
Yeah.
be luckier. But he had always through the whole process, he was like, like there's a chance for you to play for the Icelandic national team. Like,
All
would
right.
you want to do that? Would you want to
Yeah.
do that? And it was kind
He's
of
like,
like
I will be your anchor. I will get you.
and for me at that point, it was kind of a no-brainer. Of course, like I had mentioned before, like I had been a part of the youth national team
Okay.
process. I was playing, I think I went to one camp with under 18s and then I had been pretty significantly in with the under 23s.
Okay.
So like being close to like knocking on the door, but then it kind of phased out and you get to a certain age where like they're not tracking you anymore.
Yeah.
So I knew that was not going to be an option for me, but
Okay.
when this opportunity came for me, I was just very excited because it is something playing at the highest level is something that I've always wanted to do.
Right. And it's not that you weren't wanted, right? It just so happened that as you were coming to the pinnacle, so to speak, in your career, that upward trajectory, it just so happened that, I mean, and no disrespect to the team's past that the women's national team has had, but it may have been the most talent rich side in the history of women's soccer.
Of
Like,
course. You can't
all
look
things,
past that.
all things being fair and
For
equal.
sure.
And that's no knock on your talent or your ability.
Exactly.
Like I'm sorry, I wasn't one of the best, there's 50 people, that could start on any team in any country in the world right now. And so maybe I'm 51, 52, but I'm not saying you were. Please don't, misconstrue.
Of course
I'm trying
not.
to say
No,
there's
you're completely correct in that. That it was. I was probably in those training camps. I'm trying to think. At that time, I was with like Abby Dahlkemper, Julia. These are like people that I'm competing against for a spot, and like I knew, like it's humbling playing against people like that. But
Sure.
you can see yourself that it will be difficult, to make it when you have just like you say, just amazing players surrounding you.
Well, and there's no shame in that. And we talked about listen, you can't worry about the opportunities you don't have. So here comes this wonderful opportunity that's presented to you. How did it feel for you as an American coming in and kind of 2013 coming into a country that was not your own to having to me, I'm a huge national team program character. I mean, I think that's pretty obvious on the show and things like that, but I can't imagine that it must be so loving and so fulfilling to have a country that's not necessarily your own, adopt you and just say we embrace you, we love you, we want you to feel how did that kind of feel for you to be so well received by the national program?
It was just absolutely amazing. Like it's almost indescribable because just from the minute I stepped in with them, everybody was just like taking me in. I think at the point that I first came in, I was speaking Icelandic, but not to the level that I am now. And they were just so supportive that it was just like almost shocking. And I was just like, okay, you don't have to be that nice. I know that I'm not speaking perfect Icelandic, but you guys are just like moving on. Like I'm just cruising through speaking fully. But they're just amazing people. And I think they're just super proud. For them, they're super proud that somebody would want to come into their country and just immerse themselves completely. And they think that that's just amazing. So I think being that well received just allowed for me to also just spread my wings there and do my thing.
Sure. Now I'll when you wear the Icelandic national team shirt, and not to be controversial, it cause problems in the house. What's on the back? I'm just kind of curious. What's on the back between your shoulders?
The moment it is Anasi. It is Anasi. Of course, when I started playing for the national team, I was still Anasi. It was like I told you, Anasi Erlingsson is a recent change.
Sure.
Also, Anasi, like adopting the last name Erlingsson is a bit controversial in Iceland as well, because
Is it? Okay.
the last names of everybody in Iceland, you have the like ending daughter or son.
Yes.
So son for boys, daughter for girls. So my daughter is Harper Runar's daughter, so she's daughter of Runar.
Yeah.
So me wearing Erlingsson is kind of weird for them, because they're like, you're not the son of Erlinger.
Not...
Like, what is going on? This doesn't make any sense, basically.
Yeah. I mean, if you were to transliterate it like to be the wife of your husband, what would that be?
That would be, I don't even know what the answer to that would be.
You speak Iceland. I'm trying to get you, like, help me out here.
I don't even know, but I don't think it's translatable. Basically,
okay.
I'll say that.
We'll say it can't happen. It can't happen. Won't happen.
It can't happen. It doesn't make sense.
All right, fair enough. Yeah, no, that's good. I think that's just so wonderful. I know that there are a lot of federations, obviously, that are looking for opportunities at every point to kind of see who's playing and who can represent in their country. But to be so well embraced by a culture, by a community, by a national team, to help give and forge. And there's obviously, on the men's side, the Iceland team became like the darling, the 2018, 2019 Olympics that or the World Cup that happened. And so you see kind of that rise, and you were kind of part of that, that culmination of the program really becoming big and kind of the fullness of it. And I can't only help but imagine that there's just this deep sense of pride and love that you have.
For sure.
and it's not at the cost of not loving the country of your birth, right?
Of course not.
And I think that that's really important for people to kind of consider. Can you share it, like share with us at least a little bit? Has there been any kind of personal consternation or any type of, I don't think there's any type of regret. I don't hear any of that in your voice, but I don't think, is there any type of sadness that this was kind of your option, or it just seems that you really have embraced the options that were in front of you?
Yeah, I think I embraced the options that were in front of me. I think it was actually an amazing experience to play in the She Believes Cup with Iceland. Yeah. Because we come to a tournament that's run by the United States, and I'm representing a country in my birth country. It was actually it was unreal. We ended up playing the United States in the third game, and that was actually played in Frisco, Texas. So I was just like, this is just a whole lot of the pass cross, and to end up here is just absolutely unreal.
What a beautiful
moment.
I
wouldn't. Yeah, it was absolutely beautiful. I wouldn't say it was regret. I would definitely just say it's just different. I've kind of lived with the theme of everybody has their own path, and just if you reach your goal at the end of it, it doesn't matter which way you went. That's just if it goes this way and then that way and swerves, as long as you end up doing and feel like you're in the place that you were supposed to be in, I think it's just amazing.
And what was the Icelandic phrase for what will be will be?
Yeah, That's
what it was. It was
well done.
Well, hell now. Good. Hey now, let's go. I'm getting my passport stamp. Let's go.
Let's go.
But I think that's really what it is for you, is that you kind of that phrase in itself kind of encapsulated your journey. What looking forward now from your career, is your family going to grow +1 again? International, what is kind of your playing career kind of look forward in front of you? What does that look like?
So, like I touched on earlier, I've switched teams, and now we have the opportunity to play in Champions or qualify to play in the group stages of Champions League and that. So that's just an experience that I can't wait to be a part of. So I have that. And then the Euros are actually this summer in England. So I'm hoping to be on the squad that goes to the Euros this summer in July. So I have that to look forward to. And then we're also World Cup qualifying. So of course next year's the World Cup. So I have quite a bit of footballing, I think, left. And adding +1, that's been a big debate in the family. Little lady's been asking when she's going to get another sibling.
Sure.
But like I told her, and I've told people, I think I need to play through these next few years, go through these major tournaments, hopefully. Yeah. And then I'll feel comfortable to be in a place where I can have a baby and start working and rebuilding from there. Because I think if I'm to go back, have another little baby, and start building from ground
Yeah,
zero,
be
it's
real hard.
gonna take me. So it's gonna be a lot of work.
Yeah, and that window sounds like it's going to be very difficult to kind of get back into the
Exactly.
scene. So, I've got one last kind of thought, and then we'll kind of end. We have a final question we always ask on the show. So, my last thought is I would love for you just to kind of share with the youth players in our audience who are wondering about playing international at such a young age. Kids going to residency programs or stuff like that, going into Europe and different parts throughout the rest of the world. What advice would you give to youth players kind of contemplating an opportunity, and college players to go play international?
Mm-hmm. Ooh, this is like a difficult, I would say, thought. I think basically you have to do what's comfortable for you. I think research is very important. You kind of have to see what kind of style of play, how you fit into the style that you think you're going into. But if you really, really want to do it, I think it's just something that you sit down with your family and find a way to do it if that's what you want to do. I'm definitely not against, like, I know it's been a very heavy discussion of kids who leave and go abroad or at an early age, but I think you're seeing now, just with the investment that's going into women's soccer, it is worth it at this point.
Yeah.
You can make a decent salary and you can make a decent living playing for the bigger clubs. So I think you can take that and make the investment to do that and move forward. And like I said, just talking to your family and doing that is very important.
Right, Harper. Yeah, she's like, okay. No, I love it, and thank you for sharing that. I think that's some really that's some good life experience and wisdom that you've had to learn and earn to be able to share. One final question. It's a question we always ask at the end of our podcast of our guests here, and I know you're in another country, and I know you're playing for another national program. So, so I preface it with this: is that if you got to wave a wand and you got to rub the lamp and get one wish for soccer in the United States, if you were to implement a change with immediate and full effect in the States, what would you change, and to what end would that change impact?
Ooh, I think on the youth side, I would probably change the pay to play scheme.
Okay.
I think here in Europe, I've really seen how accessibility has helped making soccer available to everyone, and that you can still produce talent at the highest level and create a competitive enough environment without paying insane costs of what it costs. I know it's a controversial and probably very difficult to do because it takes a very large investment, but I'd like to think if a smaller country like Iceland has done it, that definitely in the United States we can make that happen. So I think that would be my biggest thing.
Okay. What a great thought. A lot of people feel that way. It's obviously on a grand scale, so there's a lot of things, but I would love to see in some aspect the conversation to continue to happen, because I know as a dad who has two daughters who are playing, the cost is exorbitant for what we would deem as a soccer education. And I know that there's a lot of times that they're not actually receiving the education that we're paying for.
For sure.
But I'm just saying, I have a 13-year-old who's one heck of a great babysitter and not a bad soccer player. So if you're looking for a foreign exchange kind of situation there, we can get the passport.
You need to send me that information.
I'm going to send you some video. Yeah. We got it. I'm going to tell Bella she's going to Europe, sweetheart. So let's get absolutely. Let's do it. Let's get Marissa back on here. Marissa, your thoughts kind of winding us down here.
Yeah. Well, I really, enjoyed listening to more of your journey. So I hope that those who are listening can really see how, sometimes taking that leap that you did to go, to decide on Duke without checking out the California schools that are supposedly, on your list, but also going over to Europe at such a young age. I admire people who do that, and hopefully, if it inspires one person, great. And maybe I can visit Bella when she's a foreign exchange student over in Iceland.
You guys are always welcome. Yeah. We love that.
Well, one of the things I've talked to my girls is letting them, I mean, first of all, knowing that there are other leagues in other countries around the world that you can. That's why I think soccer is the greatest sport ever given to humankind, because you can play it in so many places throughout the world, and the opportunity is massive. So my girls are always like, "Dad, would you let me go, to this country or that country at 14?" It's like, well, we'd have to see what the opportunity looks like, but if that's what you really want to do, I don't know that I'd hold you back. So
I think the times are so different now that it actually is crazy how much exposure you would be surprised how much exposure you get just playing. Like for me, playing in Iceland, I've gotten offers from teams just all over the place. So I think that's something to recognize as well for young players, is that wherever you go, it could be the door that opens another door for you in the future.
Yep. And I just want to encourage everybody in our audience to please go ahead and follow Natasha. It's Natasha Anasi on Instagram, like I just did. Go ahead and click that follow button and see you in your fancy blues, the Icelandic blue. Marissa, any other final thoughts there?
No, I hope that people take some good points from what you've shared, Natasha, especially being a mom and, transitioning back into your career. So we look forward to all the updates. I follow you on many accounts now, so I'll be reaching out, and really glad to have you today.
Thanks so much for your time.
Oh, thank you guys. This was really fun. So I just want to thank you guys.
I told you we wanted to make you a friend by the end of the podcast. Hopefully we knocked it out of the park. Yeah.
You did that.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much.
All right. That's all. Thank you.
Oh, thank you guys. Bye.